You too.
Well, maybe just for opening comment, today's a big day. Officially 92 days later after leaving the practice field on March the 10th. Our guys are back for voluntary workouts, and probably the number one question that I've received from our guys here over the last 12 weeks was, when are we going to get back? When are we going to be able to start workouts? So I know they were very excited and to be able to get started. And I appreciate, number one, all the leadership here at the university. They've been meeting for about the last 2 months, trying to make a way for something like today. And Steve Walls and his staff within sports medicine have been doing a great job of communicating and using our resources with all the medical personnel here on campus with USF Health and also with the people downtown. I believe that you find out a lot about the leadership within your program, within your university, anytime that you face some adversity and difficult times. I didn't really expect that in the first spring. I thought maybe some of that would come later in the fall as the season starts. But I have been able to observe the leadership that we have here all the way, with President Corral and his team and cabinet, to Michael Kelly, has done an excellent job with his cabinet here within athletics, and just the open lines of communication that we've received has really helped myself and our staff be able to communicate very clearly with our players' parents about the process and how we were going to be able to accomplish. Really, we have two big level goals. The first is to keep all of our student athletes and staff and coaches and everybody around safe and healthy. And the second goal is to find a way to play college football this fall. And I think that trying to make both of those happen create a lot of questions and a lot of challenges. But again, I'm just a very small part of that within our organization. There's been a lot of people that have spent a lot of time and put a lot of effort into finding a safe way for our guys to be able to come back. And so it's a start. We've got a lot of work to do between now and September 5th, but feels in some strange way, feels very similar to maybe 92 days ago when we started our first day of spring practice, just kind of getting our guys back around. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Coach, obviously this is voluntary, but I would think that the guys were beating down the door to probably get back here to work out. What was the turnout like this morning?
Yeah, well, part of the voluntary rules is that we're not allowed to take roll. But I would say this, I believe, there's a protocol that has to be in place before the guys are allowed to work out. And so one is they have to be here and get tested. And we'll go ahead and say that we had 80 of our players tested so far. Very happy to report 0 of the 80 came back tested positive. We have some young men that are coming back from areas in Florida or Georgia that are considered kind of the hot spot zones. And so they have to quarantine for 14 days before they're allowed to participate in the voluntary workouts. And so I would say of all the guys that are cleared and ready to go, I expect all of them to be here for day one. And the sentiment among our team meetings and all that has been that they're all anxious and ready to get back and go to work. So I don't see that as a problem, but we definitely have to follow the rules and procedures for voluntary workouts.
Being that it sounds like it's just strength and conditioning, still what's the benefit of being able to do it here with your services that you have here?
Yeah, well, number one is we're able to make sure that it's being done safely. I think that was the concern once the gyms opened up, all over Florida. We knew our guys were going to want to get back into the gyms, and so being able to, number one, monitor and make sure they stay safe with COVID, and then also make sure that they're staying safe with the lifting and all the different things they're doing with that. And then also for us to kind of figure out where they are conditioning wise. I was thinking last night, kind of thinking through everything, and for many of our guys, it's probably the first time, in 5, 6, 7 years that they haven't had some type of conditioning workouts with a coach. Really thinking about them maybe starting off in the 9th grade, showing up for workouts really from that 9th grade all the way up until 92 days ago, they've been a part of a team that's been able to work out and stay in condition. So some of our players had access to be able to do some stuff, and some other guys had to do whatever they could do out in their backyard. So for us, it's not about going out and picking up right where we left off. It's really about seeing where the guys are and kind of safely bringing them along to get everybody to a point where we can really get back to our full level of weightlifting and conditioning.
Jeff, some coaches have said, we need 6 weeks of camp to be prepared for a season. Some have said a little less. What's your take on that? How much time do you think your team needs?
We need 6 months. We got a new staff here, but between maybe that's what we want. I don't think that's probably what we need. I think that was a big topic maybe 4 weeks ago, but now I think we're all at a point where it looks like there's going to be a potential 6-week model coming out that potentially adds some extra meeting time and extra walkthroughs, maybe for 2 weeks leading up to fall camp, which would definitely be very beneficial for everybody, but especially for us, because we do have a lot of installation that needs to take place. There's only so much that you can do through a Zoom call and doing some stuff electronically. At some point, you got to get on the field and actually go through the process and be able to learn and coach and correct from that. But I think again, a month ago I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to get back before the beginning of July, and so the fact that we are back now at this part in June, I really feel like we kind of bought ourselves an extra 3 weeks before that process in July kind of picks up a little bit in what we're going to be allowed to do with our guys. So it's not an ideal scenario, but it's one that everybody, it would be different if maybe only the Southeast or only Florida was dealing with this, but the fact that everybody in the country is dealing with it, there's not as much of a competitive advantage or disadvantage in any way. I think the biggest thing for us is just making sure that we do it in a safe manner, because it's going to be a long year. It's going to be a different year, regardless of whenever we do get started. There's going to be a lot of we're going to need a lot of patience and flexibility and being able to adjust to some of the new procedures and protocols that we'll be following.
Are you zoomed out?
Zoomed out. Yeah, I saw that. I could definitely agree with that. It's like anything. If you do a lot of it for a long period of time, you're ready to do something else. And so that was the next question that we were getting from our guys is, okay, now we know when we can work out, when can we get back in the building and start having meetings? And none of that's been decided yet. We're optimistic that later in July, if things continue to go well, that we may be able to get to that point. But our guys have handled it very well. I've been really impressed with our coaches and players, how they've handled the Zoom and Microsoft Teams calls that we've done. But at some point, you kind of reach a max of what you can do with that. And I think for us, the next step's actually putting in the work and getting on the field.
Given the fact that you only got one practice in during spring, are you going to have to go back? Is it kind of a retraction and starting all over again in terms of like the installations and just plays that?
Yeah, we definitely will. I mean, I think we have had some time here over the last 12 weeks to be able to teach virtually, but there's no doubt. I mean, I think one positive that may come from this is we're going to be really simple with what we do offensively and defensively, and that can be a positive as well. I know from my previous experiences, when you start off and you're very simple in what you do and the guys know what to do, you tend to have more success. And so that's going to kind of be my challenge to our staff. We've got some really good coaches that have some great schemes and different nuances within those schemes. But for me, starting off with our guys, I want to be sure they know what to do whenever that time comes and can execute what we're asking them to do. And if it takes later on into the season before we can truly, get to everything that we want to do offensively and defensively, then I'm perfectly fine with that. It's really about kind of teaching at the pace that these guys allow us to teach and how quickly they're able to go out and execute what we're teaching them.
I know you guys aren't allowed to touch a football here until July, but are guys able to like toss it around with each other in small groups on their own time? And is that something you're allowed to encourage, especially given all the transfers in this class?
Right. Yeah, I know. I'm sure our guys have been doing some things on their own, throwing and catching and those type of things. I think for us, you know, we have the rules of what we're allowed to do specifically with our guys, and then, you know, this is very similar to maybe 5 or 6 years ago when we had volunteer workouts in the summer, and a few years ago they changed it to summer access, where you could require guys to be here in the summer, and you as coaches could actually get out there and do some things with your guys. So for us, it kind of takes us back to maybe 5 years ago, and those guys have the ability to do some things on their own. And I'm sure as we, you know, kind of get into our second week here of figuring out our workout routine, then they'll have some access to getting out on the field once our strength staff and everybody leaves the field, and do some things that they'd like to do to start getting the timing and those type of things down. But for us, we're definitely limited as coaches that we can't be out there at this time, and probably be, you know, later into July and August before we actually get on the field with them with the ball.
Jeff, what are you as coaches allowed to do? Are y'all all allowed to be here now?
We're allowed to be in the office, so we've kind of staggered that in smaller groups. We have currently, the way that we're set up through June, is our defensive staff and some of our recruiting staff and support staff are in the office on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then our offensive staff and support staff come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I'm here every day with each group. So even as coaches, we've kind of been coming slowly into the office, being able to, you know, we'll get in the big team room to have a defensive staff meeting or offensive staff meeting, kind of like everybody spread out. So it's been nice just to be able to see your own coaches face to face, and I think it's kind of part of the phase-in process. But we're not, because it's volunteer workouts, we're not allowed to go down there and watch the guys at all. I think whenever it turns into summer access in July, then we'll be allowed to go down and be a part of that. But, you know, I'm sure we're going to find some ways to get around our guys, whether it's, you know, having small groups and going to meet them at dinner or something like that. Those will be some things that we'll be able to do here over the next few weeks to start connecting with them a little bit more in person.
Coach, there's going to be something in the back of the mind of like, okay, kids, you know, the guys went through it this time, no one tests positive, but then maybe you get to July, you get to August. I mean, is there that kind of, I don't say fear, but like, is that kind of in the back of like maybe coaches' minds as we go through, you know, this new normal in a way?
Sure. I mean, there's been 1,000 different scenarios that, you know, we as coaches have been trying to think through. You know, I mean, just one scenario is if one of your quarterbacks were to test positive for COVID and he's been sitting in a room with the other 4 quarterbacks, do all of them have to quarantine for 14 days? It may be a little harder to go to practice and play a game without a quarterback. So, you know, how we proceed with our meetings, and you know, there's a lot of different scenarios with that. I think the biggest thing for us, it honestly is a day by day, and there's a lot. I mean, I talked to Steve Walls and Yuri, who do a great job with our sports medicine team. I'm talking to them daily. I'm talking to Michael Kelly daily. We're talking with our conference office on a weekly basis, and really just trying to stay, you know, one step ahead and be able to find some answers to some of the problems that do exist. Obviously, we're all hopeful that, you know, I really believe personally that these next 2 weeks are going to say a lot as, you know, football teams all over the country start getting back and working out. We're going to learn a lot in the next 2 weeks, and hopefully there's a lot of good results that come from that, you know, hopefully will show us, you know, a little bit clearer path into July and August. And, you know, my overall, maybe it's just because I'm optimistic person generally, but my overall feeling is that, you know, things are going to continue to get better. I mean, I know a month ago we weren't really sure when we were going to get back, what that was going to look like, and so to be able to stand here today and actually, you know, have our guys out there working out, I think that's a huge step in the right direction, being that we're, you know, still, you know, close to 90 days from kickoff. We have a lot of time between now and then, and I'm very optimistic that things will continue to improve and I think these next 2 weeks will say a lot to that extent.
As you're still learning the personalities of your players, how impressed were you with Jordan McLeod and what he did at Champs with the group guys, and then KJ obviously over this past weekend?
That's probably been the best part of the last 12 weeks is being able to watch and listen to our guys. You know, I think one thing that I've started doing maybe a month ago is each day, Monday through Friday, I call 5 of our players, and I think I'm through 75 of our 90 returning players right now, and have a good 15-20 minute conversation with them. And it starts off, I want to know about their family, where they grew up, where they went to high school, how they got to South Florida, what their experience has been like, what things they feel like need to improve within our program to take the next step. And so it's been really a great opportunity to get to know our players on an individual one-on-one basis, but then also with everything that's happened in the last 2 weeks, to see the way our guys have responded to that. We've had some really emotional and very intense team meetings, really giving the guys an opportunity to talk and share their feelings with what's going on. And as myself and a lot of our coaches and other players have been doing a lot of listening and learning through that. And I think coming out of all of that as a team, there was a big, really a decision that some guys wanted to take some positive action and try to be a positive example within our own community. Both Jordan and KJ are right here from Tampa, and this is a very important place to them. And I'm not surprised at all to see those guys out there leading and finding a way to put a positive light on some very difficult situations that we're all going through right now. And I think, to me, for our the majority of our team to show up on Saturday was very powerful, and in a way very unique, that the first time that we were able to get back together as a team, coaches and players, was there Saturday in Tampa for that type of event. I think is very powerful, and I said it earlier this morning on a radio interview that I feel that we've come closer together here over these last 12 weeks, even though we've all been home and practicing social distancing, just through our communication. And I feel like we're in a really good place as a team as we get back, and that gives me a lot of optimism, even though there's a lot of challenges obviously that go with not having spring practice and new coaches and all those things. If we can have the locker room and the unity right within our team, then all the other stuff's going to take care of itself.
It seems like the guys are pretty excited to get back, but have you had to talk to any parents who have concerns about everyone coming back so soon?
Yeah, so we reached out last week once we knew exactly what our plan was going to be, getting started and what the protocols were going to be. I had a Zoom meeting, 2 meetings, one with the offensive specialist parents and one with the defense parents, and we talked a lot of different subjects, and one area was obviously the guys returning and the protocols, and we let Steve and Yuri be able to explain what we're doing from a safety measures. We let Coach True, our strength coach, describe exactly what we're going to be doing from a workout perspective, and kind of laid out the plan for them. And they definitely had some really good questions that you would expect, and I felt through those calls that they number one, appreciated that we reached out to communicate with them directly, and number two, I think they were very comfortable with the answers that we've given. And that's probably one thing that I've learned through this process, that I think even whenever we get back to a little bit normal circumstances where we can meet with our guys in person, being able to communicate with the parents through Zoom or something like that in the future, I think is something that we'll continue to do. And it was very helpful, especially when we needed to give all the information about what we have going here the next few weeks.
So what's your take on the preseason pundits who pick you guys to finish in the basement?
Oh man, right here is this June the 10th. You got to say they're gonna have something to talk about in August as it gets closer. Yeah, I saw that. I felt like the only thing you left out in your tweet was that we had the #2 most difficult schedule. That was the only part that you left out. But you know, it does remind me a little bit of our beginning years at Clemson. And obviously it was a little bit different circumstances, but you know, to go from a place where there's not a lot expected out there. You know, one thing that's unique for me is I don't really know a lot about our guys on the field, and they haven't been in our system. We haven't been able to get out there. The good news is a lot of other people don't know about our guys either within our new schemes of what we're going to be doing offensively and defensively. So you know, there's no doubt that you know, as coaches, that'll definitely be brought up at the appropriate time. But you know, more important, you're not going to change a program, you know, based off some article clippings or anything like that. I mean, really, what I've learned is it's truly about having an internal focus. And like you've heard me say before, it's not about who we play, WHO, it's about how we play, HOW. And so I think for us, it's really just kind of, you know, we're maybe laying in the weeds, and that's fine, but it's all the work that kind of goes on, you know, behind the scenes. You know, it's been said before that, you know, championship teams have, you know, been born when the stands are empty and nobody's around. And so I think for us, it's getting our team in order. And I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done. But you know, I truthfully don't know exactly where this team is because I haven't been on the field with them yet. But I do feel very confident that we have a bunch of guys in that locker room that are willing to put in the work required, that have bought in to, you know, the vision and the standard of this new coaching staff. And I'm excited to get out there on the field with them and see what happens. But I mean, I wasn't completely surprised whenever I saw that. It was, you know, there's just a lot of unknowns going into it, and you know, but for going in year one, I don't think that's a bad place to be, where not many people know much about your guys, and you know, hopefully our end result at the end of the year will look a lot better than maybe what it looks like at the preseason. All right, great.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
Good to
Jeff.
see you all.